What's happening? What's happening? What's happening, people? It's me, Mr. Gavin Cameron, Managing Director of Car Buying Guru, the car finance expert, and this is the Car Finance Expert podcast. Before I get started, don't forget to check us out on the socials at Car Buying Guru UK on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can get me personally also on Instagram, Mr. Gavin Cameron, or on Twitter, Mr. Gavin Cameron 7. Ask me any questions you want. But today it's episode 2 of the Car Finance Expert podcast, and I am going to let you guys know how you can save thousands of pounds by doing simple things like paying your car off early with an early settlement figure, part exchanging, or even a VT. So stick around to find out how you can do all that. And also share this content with anyone that you know, family, friends, work colleagues, whatever, that you think can benefit by saving thousands of pounds on their car finance. So yeah, as I said, we're going to talk to you guys about how you can save loads of money when trying to get rid of your car finance early. Nothing I tell you is illegal. I am FCA accredited. Everything I tell you is legal and above board. So if there's stuff that sounds too good to be true, it isn't. Okay? So first things first, how many of you have actually been in a car agreement and thought, oh, I'm 4 years in, I still got another year to go and I don't even know if this car's going to make it to the end of the week? Or you got a baby on the way and your car is no longer practical because it's only got 3 doors and you want to get a 5-door hatch instead so you can get the baby seat in the back. Today, I'm going to let you guys know that you are not stuck in your vehicle at any time. And in fact, if you are actually buying a car now and you're thinking of how you can save money in the long run because you're going to go long term and own the car outright on a hire purchase agreement, for instance, I'm going to let you guys know how you can save thousands. Let's start off with those that are in the car though and need to get out of it early. So let's say you're in a PCP agreement. You sign an agreement for 4 years and you're 3.5 years in, or 3 years in, should I say, and you got 12 months to go and you're thinking that you want to change this car early. Do not think for a second that you are stuck. There's one simple thing you need to do. Call your finance company. You can do it today after this podcast. Don't do it now. Let me finish. But you can do it today. Go to your phone, call your finance company, not the dealership, call the finance company and ask them for a settlement figure. You don't want a balloon payment because they might try and give you a balloon payment. You want the settlement figure. What the settlement figure is quite simple. It's the total amount you've borrowed minus the amount you've paid already and any interest that you've already paid. Because the total amount of interest you're going to pay is all added up together and then divided on a monthly basis. Now, that means that you're going to be due some money back because you're going to end it early. So like I said, if you're 36 months into a 48-month agreement, you've paid some of the interest from months 37 onwards. They're going to have to give you that interest back and they call it a rebate. So there's a few things. And to be honest, I'm telling you stuff that you don't really have to worry about. What you need to worry about, what you need to know, and what you need to jot down if they don't email or post it to you is the actual settlement figure. And that's what, when they've done all their division and adding up and subtracting, all their numbers will come to a settlement figure. That's what you've got left to pay them for you to be free from that finance agreement. So I'm going to keep the math simple. Let's say you've got £5,000 owing and your car is working fine. It's got no major damage or anything like that. You know you're going to get around £6,000 on a part exchange, or even if you sold it to a dealership, or maybe you want to keep it. But you know that that car is worth a bit more than £5,000, then you're onto a winner. If you want to do it without having to go and visit a dealership, you can go onto things like Auto Trader, incidentally. If you Google Auto Trader valuation, it will bring you to a page on the Auto Trader website, which you can do that. But we'll come to that in a second. Once you've got this settlement figure, that amount is what you need to remember and write down. Yeah? And that means that once you've paid that £5,000 that we use for this example, you are no longer in the finance agreement. That 4-year agreement, is now ended on year 3 and you're good to go. So yeah, back to the valuation. Now you can go to a dealership and look at a part exchange. You can pay it off if you're a bit flush, which I wouldn't really recommend doing. But if you want to keep the car, you can pay it with your debit card. You can actually pay it to them once they've given you the settlement. If they say, Mr. Smith, Miss Smith, you owe £5,000, that's your settlement figure. You could give them your card details over the phone, and there you go, it's all done. You can try and sell the car privately, but because people do HPI checks on the car, they'll see that there's finance on it, and that tends to be a bit difficult and a bit sticky. But before all that, like I said, if you want to know where you stand with it, go onto the Auto Trader website, type in Auto Trader valuation, fill it in, details, ask for your reg and the mileage of the car, ask if you're a robot, and then once you tell it that you're trying to sell the car, it will give you a valuation if you was to sell it privately or if you was to part exchange. The part exchange price would be what you'd be if you was to sell it to a dealership. And by selling it to a dealership, what I mean is that you literally go to the dealer, tell them that you've got a car here, you want to sell it, they'll buy it off you. Most dealerships will buy it off you. They might try and buy it off you on the cheap. So that's why you need to know what you're actually selling to them, or what the value of what you're selling to them is, before you go in. So that hence why I'm telling you about the Auto Trader. But anyway, once you've done that, once you've done any of those options, like again, sold it directly to a dealership, done the part exchange, or if you can sell it privately, or pay it off cash. Once you've done any of them 4 options even, that's it. You're at your agreement. You save some money on interest and away you go. That's what you do if you're towards the end. Now, if you're in the middle of an agreement and circumstances change, let's say you can't afford the car, or again, like family have expanded, or something's wrong with the vehicle and you simply just want to get out of it, as long as you're done about half the payment on the agreement, now the actual monetary figure will change, but you can do a VT. This is something that you are legally entitled to. A lot of people will be told that it's going to ruin your credit rating, or the finance company are not going to let you do it, or anything like that. But if you look in your paperwork, having a voluntary termination, also known as a VT, is something that you are legally entitled to. There is a term, it depends obviously with the finance company, and all contracts are different layouts. But if you look through it, if you actually read the documentation you sign at the beginning of your finance agreement, it will tell you that you are allowed to voluntarily terminate, and it will tell you how much you've had to have paid till you've got there. And to work out how much you've paid is simple. So again, using the 3 years in a 4-year agreement example, if you're 3 years in to any agreement, in fact, not even a 4-year agreement, but if you're 3 years in, that means 36 months. That means if you're up to date with your payments, which you should be, and your payments are £200 a month, 200 times 36, that's the amount you've paid so far. If that amount is the same or more than the amount that is showing that you can end your agreement early, or early termination on the contract, then that's it. Just call them up, tell them you want to voluntarily terminate, and then they'll talk you through the rest of their process. It's not always that easy. They do put up a fight because the finance company are not happy with this part of the agreement. They don't really want you to do that. They lose money basically. But like I said, it's part of the deal. It's part of the deal. The same way you have to make your monthly payments each month to stay with your end of the bargain, they have to allow you to do a voluntary termination. They'll ask some questions, and it's not as simple as everyone can do it. And it's not good for the economy. It's not good for business. Even my part of the business, to be honest, it's not really good. But some people need this information. That's why I'm sharing it. So yeah, if you want to, or you really need to do a voluntary termination, then I'll say go ahead and do it. But only if you really need to. If you can stick it out, then stick it out. Because one of the negative things that can come from it is that you're going to upset the finance company. Let's say you're with ABC Finance, who I've just made up today, and you do a voluntary termination with them. They're probably not going to want you to have a second car from them. So you're sort of cutting ties with them. And if you struggle to get car finance and you cut ties with ABC Finance, who are one of the only finance companies that are happy to give you finance, you do a VT, you need to get a new car on finance, you're going to find yourself in problems. So it is an option that is important and you need to know about it, in my opinion, but it's one that you need to be careful about using. One that you don't really need to be careful about using, and I do recommend everyone does, especially if you're on a hire purchase agreement, not so much on a PCP, But if you're on a hire purchase agreement, you have to really consider this option. And that is simply paying off your car finance early by making inflated payments. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean that if you are in an agreement for 60 months, that's a 5-year agreement, and you're paying £100 a month, that means for every £100 you pay, it will knock around one of them 60 payments off. So that means obviously if you could pay £200 a month, you'll be paying for half the time. It will turn a 5-year agreement into a 2.5-year agreement. What's the benefit of that? You pay less interest in total. Because you're borrowing the money over a shorter period, you're going to pay less interest, and therefore you're going to actually save a lot of money in the long run. Like I said, I mean, if you're on a PCP, the whole aim is to not make big payments, really. That's probably one of the biggest reasons why people go on a PCP. That, and to obviously change your car often. So it doesn't really make sense doing it on a PCP. I'd recommend definitely look at the part exchange early option on a PCP. But if you're on a hire purchase and you know that at the end of this agreement you want to keep your car, then I would definitely look at the option of paying it up early. Like I said, you can make inflated payments every month, or if you are in a position where you get, I don't know, bonuses every quarter or yearly or anything like that, you can call up the finance company when you get a bonus from work and just make a large chunk payment. This is something that's only come into play in 2012, I believe. It's around the time I got into the industry. Because before that, I had a car on finance and I tried to do that and it was a waste of money. I actually regret to this day trying to make a large bulk payment on my car, thinking that I'd be able to pay some of it off. It just went onto interest and yeah, bad times. But it's now illegal for finance companies not to allow you to pay off your hire purchase agreement early. So yeah, everyone that is on a hire purchase agreement that I speak to, especially people, if you're in a position where you're struggling with car finance, or you're on a car finance agreement where you're paying a high interest rate, get it paid as soon as possible. And the best way of doing that is making inflated payments. Yeah, pay it off early. Get a bonus, stick it into the car. If you can afford a bit more per month, even if it's just 50 quid, do you know what I mean? It's going to add up over time. It's going to start to build up. And in the long run, you're going to save yourself hundreds, if not thousands and thousands of pounds. What are the things you need to consider with each of these? I told you about the VT one. You do upset finance companies, so it's unlikely you can go back to them and get another car. With part exchange, one of the negatives is that you can end up in a position of negative equity. So if you do want to get out of the car early and you want a part exchange, for instance, you may be in a position where, like I said, you owe the finance company £5,000, but the car might be only worth 4.5. So you're going to have to find 500 quid just to get out of the vehicle. I wouldn't recommend rolling the debt onto a new car, which a lot of dealerships will try and get you to do. I don't think it's a good idea. You're going to go into the new car with even more debt than you should have had in the first place. So if you're in a position where you are in negative equity, I'd either try and pay it off before you get into your new car, or just hold out a bit longer and see if you can get to a position where you can either afford to pay off the negative equity, or the car valuation and the amount you owe start to balance out and meet in the middle, or obviously break even. But they're the main ones really, yeah. And obviously inflated payments, I can't actually see where you can go wrong with that. So I would say just do it. If you're on a hire purchase agreement, like I said, especially if you're paying an extortionate interest rate because of your credit history, pay it off early, as soon as possible. Just get as much payments in as soon as possible. And to prove that I'm not talking rubbish, if you've seen the Barclays advert with Simon Cowell recently, they do it. The banks are showing you how to do this. There's a calculator on the Barclays app with a normal personal loan or whatever you get from them. They're showing you how to do it. So yeah, it's something that I'm surprised they're pushing, but it's something that needs to be pushed. And that's why I'm giving out this information. So yeah, that's it. Remember to pay off your car finance early. Get rid of your car finance. Do what you can to save thousands on interest, because it's just a smarter way to do, and a smarter way to purchase your vehicle. That's it from me. It's Gavin Cameron, Mr. Gavin Cameron, car finance expert at Car Buying Guru UK on the socials, at Mr. Gavin Cameron on Instagram, at Mr. Gavin Cameron 7 on Twitter. Check out our YouTube, Car Buying Guru UK. I almost forgot my book, my ebook, free download, carbuyingguru.co.uk/shop. Download that. It's got some information on setting your car early. It's got some information on part exchanges. It's got information on all sorts, including leasing, and it's free. Download it for free. Let me know what you think. Get in touch with me even on the socials. And yeah, give me some feedback. What would you like to hear me talk about? What sort of information do you need from me? And all that jazz. Thanks for listening. Have a good one.